take that jacket off. Right now. Judge Nathan Holloway's sharp voice echoed across the silent courtroom. Every eye turned toward the woman standing near the entrance. She wore faded navy medical scrubs stained from a brutal overnight shift, covered by an old military field jacket with a weathered patch reading, Echo 7. She didn't argue. She simply stood still. Then, a retired Air Force general walking past the courtroom froze the instant he saw that patch. His face drained of color. 20 years of military discipline disappeared in seconds. "Nobody touches her," he said as he stepped inside. The courtroom fell silent. The judge had no idea that the exhausted nurse standing before him had once saved an entire rescue team during a classified mission, and within minutes, his decision would expose a cover-up far bigger than the trial itself. If stories like this keep you on the edge of your seat, subscribe now, because today's story proves that appearances can hide unbelievable truths. Riverfront Memorial Hospital had survived another impossible night. Ambulances kept arriving without pause after a massive highway collision. Among the exhausted staff was Emma Carter, a trauma nurse who had spent nearly 38 hours saving lives without leaving the emergency wing. When the final patient was stabilized, she glanced at the clock. She had less than an hour to reach the courthouse where Daniel Brooks, a former combat medic, was fighting a case that could destroy the rest of his life. She grabbed her old military jacket from the locker, took one deep breath, and hurried toward the exit, unaware that wearing it would change everything. Emma drove straight from the hospital without stopping at home. The dried blood on her scrubs didn't bother her anymore, but today she wished she had time to change. Daniel Brooks had waited nearly a month for this hearing, and she refused to let him face it alone. They had met through a veterans rehabilitation program where either of them liked talking about the past. Their friendship began in silence, built on mutual respect instead of questions. 3 weeks earlier, Daniel had stepped into a parking garage after hearing a terrified woman scream. He found 2 men cornering a young waitress while another blocked the exit with a knife. Within seconds, Daniel disarmed the attacker using military defensive techniques. 2 men were injured, but instead of walking away, he immediately used emergency first aid to stop the worst injured attacker from bleeding to death before paramedics arrived. Despite saving that man's life, Daniel was arrested. The knife mysteriously vanished from the police report, witnesses were pressured to stay quiet, and the wealthy family connected to the attackers turned Daniel into the villain. Emma was the only witness with the medical knowledge and courage to expose what had really happened. As she climbed the courthouse steps, she had no idea the judge was already preparing to throw her out before she even spoke. Courtroom 5A had already come to order when Emma quietly pushed open the heavy wooden door. Conversation stopped instantly. The judge looked up, his eyes landing on her stained scrubs and worn military jacket before anything else. "Ma'am, this is a courtroom, not an emergency ward," Judge Nathan Holloway said coldly. "Either remove that jacket or leave." Emma calmly explained that she had come directly from a mass casualty emergency and hadn't had a chance to change. She politely asked if she could keep the jacket on because it held deep personal significance. The judge wasn't interested. "You'll follow this court's instructions," he replied. "Otherwise I'll strike your testimony from the record." Daniel lowered his head. He knew exactly why Emma never took that jacket off in public, and he silently wished she wouldn't sacrifice her privacy for his case. When 2 court officers stepped forward, Emma's voice became firm. "Please, don't touch me." Something in her tone made both officers stop. Before anyone could speak again, the courtroom door opened behind them. A gray-haired Air Force general walked inside, staring at the faded Echo 7 patch on Emma's shoulder. His expression changed instantly. "I know that patch," he said quietly. "And if she's the person I think she is, this courtroom is about to learn the truth." The general walked calmly to the center of the courtroom, never taking his eyes off Emma. "My name is General Richard Hayes," he said. 20 years in the Air Force, and I've only seen one medic wear the Echo 7 insignia. The courtroom became silent. Judge Holloway frowned. General, unless you're involved in this case, I'll ask you to remain seated. I'm involved now, Hayes replied. He explained that Echo 7 wasn't an ordinary military unit. It was the call sign of a classified rescue medic who had entered enemy territory to save an entire special operations team after their helicopter crashed. The mission was never made public, and the medic's identity had remained sealed. Hayes slowly looked at Emma. I spent years trying to learn who saved those soldiers. Emma lowered her eyes. General, today isn't about me. No, Hayes answered. But if this court judges people by their appearance instead of their actions, then your story matters. For the first time, Judge Holloway hesitated. Emma quietly removed her jacket and folded it over her arm. Deep burn scars stretched across both of her forearms, along with old surgical grafts that revealed years of painful recovery. Gasps filled the courtroom. Daniel closed his eyes, realizing Emma had revealed the secret she had protected for years, just to give him a fair chance at justice. Emma stepped into the witness box, her voice calm despite every eye in the courtroom being fixed on her. The defense attorney asked her one simple question. Based on your medical experience, what did Daniel actually do that night? Emma opened a folder containing emergency records. Daniel didn't attack those men, she said. He stopped an assault, and then saved the life of the very person who had threatened an innocent woman. She explained that the injured attacker arrived at the hospital with a blocked airway. Before paramedics reached the scene, someone had already used an improvised breathing tube made from a pen to keep him alive. That procedure requires advanced emergency training, Emma continued. An angry attacker doesn't stop in the middle of a fight to save his opponent. A trained protector does. The prosecutor quickly objected, insisting her opinion was biased because she personally knew Daniel. Emma nodded calmly. Then let's rely on evidence instead of opinions. She lifted another hospital document. When the trauma team removed the attacker's jacket, a folding knife fell from an inside pocket. I personally logged it into the hospital evidence system. The courtroom froze. Judge Holloway immediately looked toward the prosecutor. If that's true, why does the official police report state that no weapon was ever recovered? No one had an answer. The prosecutor slowly stood, his confidence fading for the first time that day. I was never informed about any knife, he admitted. Those records were never included in the evidence sent to my office. A heavy silence spread across the courtroom. Judge Holloway immediately ordered the hospital's evidence log to be verified. Minutes later, the court clerk confirmed that the knife had been registered on the same night as the incident, and had remained sealed in hospital storage ever since. The judge's face hardened. So someone deliberately removed critical evidence before this case ever reached my courtroom. Everyone's eyes turned toward businessman Victor Hale, the father of one of the attackers. His calm expression finally disappeared. Emma handed over the complete chain of custody documents. Every signature, timestamp, and record matched perfectly. Daniel could barely believe what he was hearing. For weeks he had been called violent, unstable, and dangerous. Now the truth was unraveling piece by piece. Judge Holloway closed the case file and looked across the courtroom. Based on the newly presented evidence, this court finds no legal basis to continue the prosecution. The charges against Daniel Brooks were dismissed immediately. But before anyone could celebrate, the judge gave one final order. I want a full investigation into everyone responsible for hiding this evidence, starting today. The courtroom fell completely silent. The courtroom slowly emptied, but no one spoke. The silence carried more weight than any verdict ever could. Daniel walked toward Emma, stopping just a few feet away. His eyes filled with tears. I don't know how to thank you, he whispered. Emma smiled gently. You already did, the day you chose to save a life instead of taking one. General Hayes stepped forward and handed Emma a small velvet box. Inside was a military challenge coin engraved with the words, "Honor before recognition." "We searched for the medic who saved those soldiers for years," he said. "Today we finally found her." Emma closed the box and shook her head with a soft smile. "I never needed recognition. I only wanted the truth to survive." Across the courtroom, Judge Holloway stood and faced Emma. "I judged your appearance before I listened to your words," he admitted. "For that, I sincerely apologize." Emma accepted the apology with quiet dignity before putting on her old military jacket once again. Outside, the afternoon sun lit the courthouse steps as Daniel walked away a free man, while detectives entered the building to begin investigating those who had hidden the evidence. Justice hadn't won because of power or status. It won because one exhausted nurse refused to stay silent. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more powerful stories every day.